And I guess, though, Paul Heckenbottom will be looking at Newcastle playing in the Champions League just a few days ago, the travel to Milan and obviously the travel back to Tyneside. And he'll be looking to maybe capitalise on that, hoping that Newcastle do feel a little bit more tired than they would usually do if they hadn't had a European game.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I am looking at. I looked at that early on and I thought, I don't know without looking into it too much, but there seems to be this narrative around teams in the Premier League playing in the Champions League, and then the result after that. And so I know. So I wonder if 4:30 on Sunday is giving Newcastle a little bit more time, but I was really hoping that the excitement of Newcastle's first game in the Champions League for however many years, all the adrenaline that went into that and everything like that, the travel, the coming back, I was hoping that would sort of take a lot out of them mentally. And that this would actually be off the back of that really inspiring Tottenham performance and the Everton performance. This might actually be a good time to play Newcastle. I know they've lost 3 of their games, but they've played top teams. They've not set the world alight in their opening league games so far. I think it's only 1 win, isn't it, from after the opening day? Just that 1 win in 4 after the opening day. They were away in Milan, a big game for them. Sunday afternoon at Bramall Lane on TV. Sheffield United will really, really fancy it. Put it that way. I'm not saying anything silly about we're going to catch you and all this sort of stuff, but I wonder if there's something for United to go at there, given Newcastle's game away in Milan in midweek and their start to the season.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a lot of tired bodies as well. Newcastle really had to defend magnificently against AC Milan. Lots of blocks. Nick Pope was man of the match, but it was backs against the wall for a large part of the game. So there will be some aching bones, I imagine. But Eddie Howe will set his side up to win on Sunday. The mindset of the manager is that he wants to win every game, and the players are super duper fit. I mean, we've had on the previous managers where there definitely would be an impact, but I think the impact would be much less under Eddie Howe because of the way he set up his team, through pre-season and what have you. But I am certainly interested to see how the European adventures impact Newcastle. But what Eddie Howe's done really well is he's started to build a squad. So you're looking at who might play for Newcastle on Sunday. I mean, Miguel Almiron didn't feature against Brentford, and he got on for probably the last 20 minutes against AC Milan. So he's been a starter for Newcastle for the other Premier League games. So he's likely to start afresh on Sunday. Callum Wilson got 20 minutes or so again, so he'll probably start on Sunday. So they've got options. Midfield's probably where they haven't got as many options as Eddie Howe would like, and it's not quite clicking as we'd all like it to up on Tyneside. So that's going to be the interesting one to watch. Does he change Bruno? Does he change Longstaff? The answer's most likely going to be no. And it's just whether they've got the legs in them to match Sheffield United's endeavour. If you, Nathan, were again sitting across from Eddie Howe and you were giving all the secrets away, what would you say Sheffield United's biggest weakness is?
They don't have any weaknesses, Eddie, so don't worry about it. Nothing to see, Eddie. Don't do any work on United, whatever you do. There's no need to do any work on them. Now, the problem they've had so far this season is defending, which is funny because when they got promoted last time in 2019, they were built on clean sheets. They were built on, I think Dean Henderson had one of the most clean sheets in the division. Only the top 3, the 2 Manchester sides and Liverpool, had conceded fewer goals than United. They finished 9th, and it was all built from the back. But they scored very few goals, whereas this season, it's the flip, it's the reverse. They look very good going forward, and they look to have threats and goals. But defensively, they've been very vulnerable now. I think it's 4 or 5 of the 9 goals that they've conceded have come from right-wing crosses, tapped in from 6 yards out. There was a theme emerging where the first 4 goals conceded were all the same goals. Right wing cross from United's left side. 6 yards out finish. Luke Thomas is coming on loan, left wing back from Leicester, and he performed very, very well against Tottenham, and I'm expecting him to keep his place. And you know, they've got the goals that did undid United against Tottenham. They defended so well for so long, and then they lost their man at a corner, and he had a free header for the equaliser, and you know, and then they gave the ball away, and Tottenham punished them. So you know, again, the goals against Everton, they were crosses that were not dealt with. So they've been vulnerable in that respect. But I looked at some of the stats beforehand, and they've conceded the most crosses into the area. They've conceded the most shots at goal. They're not being as tight at the back as they have been previously. And last season was built on 20 clean sheets as well. But it's also an example of a step up. So as much as the goals that United have conceded, they're not going to be happy about a lot of them. It's also the fact that for large parts of those games, they have cleared a lot. They have won a lot of headers. They have done a lot of blocks. You know, against Tottenham, there was bodies on the line blocking everything. But the standard in this division means eventually one of those crosses is going to be bang on the money. And, you know, George Baldock against Man City was superb against Jack Grealish. But Grealish had one moment of space to stand the cross up, and he stood it up in Erling Haaland at that one moment of run on the header, and he equalises. And it was again a cross and a close range header. But Grealish had no joy against Baldock all game. But he worked that one opening where he finally got some space for a cross, and they scored from it. Same against Nottingham Forest. The cross for the opening goal was absolutely 6 inches higher, 6 inches lower. United clear it, but it was so bang on the money. And United have been punished for finding the quality out at this level. So defensively, there've been crosses, there've been close range finishes, they've lost their men on corners. They've been disappointing goals to concede. They have defended well for large parts, but the goals they've conceded have been really, really, concerning in that respect. So if Eddie Howe's looking at that, he's looking at the fact that, you know, United do have a vulnerability at the back.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned there about the crosses coming from, the right side of the opposition, the left side of Sheffield United's pitch. And my immediate thought was Newcastle United do not cross the ball down that wing. And I've just looked at the stats there. So Miguel Almiron, who typically plays on the right and I think will be reinstated on the right, has just got one cross into the box so far this season. Now, Kieran Trippier, the man that plays behind him, has 33 and he does like to put the ball in. But one of my big frustrations about him is that he doesn't do it as often as he should do. We know the quality Trippier has got, and often he'll either pass backwards or try and pass cleverly with Miguel Almiron. It's, at times you just saying, just get it into the box, and fingers crossed that he has started over the last couple of games. I noticed in the second to last home game Newcastle had, there was a few more, whipping the ball into the box, which is what Newcastle United need.
Try and tell Eddie to try and get him to pass backwards again then on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can get through to him. But I mean, when you've got Callum Wilson in the box or Alexander Isak, whoever it might be, you want to make sure you are making the most of that advantage of that weakness. And
how do Newcastle play? How do Newcastle play then? Because this will be the first time we'll have sort of seen Newcastle.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. I think some clubs allow Newcastle the ball and say, well, you come on to us. They invite them on, and that's something Newcastle are still getting a little bit used to, having to be the team that dominates. Because over the years, they've not been that team, and what they did in the early kind of time under Eddie Howe was they were very good on the counter. They absorb and just smash through on the counter because you had the pace on the wings and you had the runners from midfield. Now this season, the runners from midfield haven't really been there. Tonali did it on the first game of the season, but since then it's not really happened. Joe Willock's probably the man they're missing the most, and from my point of view, in terms of late runners into the box. And it is a bit of a mix. If Newcastle have allowed to, if Sheffield United come on to Newcastle and Newcastle can defend and absorb and then hit them on the counter, they're going to be really dangerous at that. but their biggest advantage is most certainly the high press, and they're really good with that high press, just forcing the goalkeeper, forcing the defence into mistakes, and then being clinical in front of goal. So Sheffield United, if they're going to pass it out from the back, they're going to have to be really on their A game, because, you know, if you've got Miguel Almiron or Anthony Gordon running at you, closing you down, Callum Wilson, you know, they're really good at it. You know, they're really good, like, you know, predators after the prey. And it's going to be really intriguing to see if they can get the better of Sheffield United in that instance.